What would you do if someone in your family exposed your deepest, most private secrets to the entire world? Not a rumor, not a whisper, but the kind of revelation that leaves you feeling vulnerable, exposed, and completely powerless. This week, that scenario became reality, and it centers on one of the most watched and scrutinized families on the planet, the Markles. Samantha Markle, Meghan Markle's own half-sister, has just dropped something explosive. Something so personal, so intimate, it has shocked everyone who has followed the royal family drama for decades. And the public reaction? Instant, relentless, and unyielding. For years, Meghan Markle has been under the microscope, her life dissected from the moment she stepped onto the royal stage. Every gesture, every word, every photograph scrutinized and criticized. Yet the real story, the private story, has always been carefully shielded, until now. Because Samantha Markle has done what no one dared imagine. She leaked her medical records. And while at first glance, it might seem like Samantha's own documents are the focus, the implications ripple directly to Meghan herself. It's a story that combines family tension, public intrigue, media frenzy, and personal heartbreak, and it's unfolding in real time. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. You might be asking, why does this matter? Why should the world care about a family feud, even one involving the most famous Markle sisters? The answer is simple. This is about privacy, trust, and the ultimate betrayal. This is about how a single act can destabilize reputations, alter public perception, and even impact personal relationships in ways that may never be repaired. And this isn't a vague, distant scandal. It's happening now. And the stakes are higher than ever because Samantha's actions have opened the door to questions about Meghan's private life that no one expected to be asked so publicly. Questions about her fertility, her future, and her very ability to have children. Imagine, for a moment, being Meghan Markle. A life that has always been under public scrutiny, now facing a revelation that could not only humiliate, but potentially redefine the narrative about your family and yourself. Every story, every headline, every tweet seems suddenly different when someone from your own bloodline becomes the architect of scandal. And it's not just about embarrassment, it's about consequences. What Samantha released, intentionally or not, has thrown Meghan into uncharted territory. It's the kind of situation most people only read about in tabloids or see in movies. Except this is real, and the consequences are very real. Samantha's leak isn't just a leak. It's a statement, a challenge. A bold act that has set off a chain reaction in the media, in royal circles, and among the public. Social media exploded within hours of the news breaking, with hashtags trending, memes spreading, and every outlet from mainstream newspapers to entertainment blogs analyzing every possible angle. Was this an act of revenge? A calculated move for attention? Or something far more personal? Something that speaks to decades of family tension and unresolved grievances? These are questions that nobody can answer definitively, yet the ripple effect is undeniable. At the same time, whispers about Meghan's personal struggles have begun to circulate. Rumors about her fertility have swirled for years, often dismissed as tabloids seeking clicks, but Samantha's leak has reignited speculation in ways that feel sharper, more personal, and, frankly, harder to ignore. Suddenly, a story that once might have been dismissed as rumor or gossip is now rooted in documents, in what appear to be factual revelations. And as the public digests this information, the questions keep multiplying. Is Meghan struggling to conceive? Did Samantha know details about Meghan's health all along? And if so, why reveal them now? But let's step back for a moment. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty details of medical records, alleged leaks, and royal family drama, it's important to understand the context. The Markles are no strangers to conflict. Meghan's relationship with her half-siblings has been tense for years, punctuated by public spats, interviews, and statements that have drawn criticism from all corners. Samantha, in particular, has never been shy about expressing her opinions, sometimes to the point of public confrontation. But leaking personal medical documents? That's a whole new level of escalation. It's one thing to criticize someone in an interview. It's another entirely to weaponize private information, exposing vulnerabilities that were never meant to see the light of day. And yet, here we are. The leak has sent shockwaves across social media, with every news outlet scrambling to cover the story. Analysts are debating the motives, legal experts are weighing in on the potential consequences, and the public is left asking, what does this mean for Meghan Markle, for her family, and for the narrative the world has built around her? The intrigue is almost unbearable. There's an uncomfortable blend of fascination and empathy, a sense that while some might revel in the scandal, the human cost is undeniable. So, what exactly did Samantha leak? At this point, the details are murky. Sources suggest that the documents contain highly sensitive personal information. Some insiders claim that they reveal intimate details about Samantha's own health, while others imply that the documents could indirectly shed light on Meghan's private medical history. The ambiguity only fuels curiosity. Every new report seems to contradict the last, and yet, every new leak adds layers to the story. It's a classic curiosity gap. The more you know, the more you want to know. And let's not underestimate the emotional stakes. This is about family, betrayal, and the violation of trust. It's one thing for the public to criticize Meghan for her choices, her fashion, or her statements. It's entirely another for someone so close to her to expose private information, turning personal vulnerability into public spectacle. The emotional weight of this story is heavy, for Meghan, for Samantha, and for anyone who has watched this family navigate decades of scrutiny and fame. Imagine the anxiety Meghan must feel, knowing that someone who shares her bloodline has crossed a line that most people would never consider crossing. How do you respond when a family member weaponizes private information against you? How do you protect yourself, your privacy, and your mental health when the world is watching your every move? These are not hypothetical questions. For Meghan Markle, they are very real dilemmas. And the fallout from Samantha's actions will likely shape her life in profound ways. At the same time, the public is torn. There's fascination with the idea of royal scandal, curiosity about family feuds, and, undeniably, prurient interest in Meghan's private life. Social media threads are filled with speculation, commentary, and analysis. Every new headline feels more sensational than the last. Some voices defend Meghan fiercely, condemning Samantha's leak as an unforgivable violation. Others argue that the truth, however uncomfortable, deserves to be exposed. The debate rages on, creating a combustible mix of outrage, empathy, and intrigue. Yet there's something even more compelling about this story than family conflict and media frenzy. It's the human element, the vulnerability, the stakes, and the consequences. Because beyond the headlines, beyond the speculation, there are real people whose lives are being affected in profound ways. And as the story unfolds, we begin to understand that the implications of Samantha's leak go far beyond scandal or gossip. They touch on identity, reputation, privacy, and the very nature of family loyalty. So as we prepare to delve into the full story, chapter by chapter, revelation by revelation, it's important to recognize the tension at play. We are about to explore the motivations behind Samantha's actions, the details of the medical record leak, the public and media reactions, and the personal toll on Meghan. We will look at the legal ramifications, the historical context of royal family secrets, and the broader implications for privacy in the age of social media. And we will do it all while maintaining the suspense that has captured the world's attention. Because this is not a story that resolves neatly or quickly. Each revelation raises more questions. Each new detail adds layers of intrigue. And at the heart of it all is a central question that refuses to go away. Why would Samantha Markle do this? And what does it mean for Meghan Markle's life, her family, and her future? But perhaps the most pressing question of all is this: what came next? Because Samantha's leak is only the beginning. The repercussions, the revelations, and the emotional fallout are still unfolding. And as we move into the first chapter, we will see just how deep this story goes and how far the impact reaches. What does it really mean to be a Markle? On the surface, the name carries fame, glamour, and a connection to royalty that most people only dream about. But behind the public image, the family dynamics are anything but simple. In fact, the story of the Markles is a story of tension, rivalry, and heartbreak. A web of personal grievances and conflicting ambitions that stretches back decades. And at the center of it all is Meghan Markle, who rose from relative obscurity to global prominence, only to find herself caught in a storm of familial discord that few could have anticipated. To understand the fallout from Samantha Markle's latest bombshell, we have to go back to the roots of the Markle family. Samantha and Meghan share a father, Thomas Markle Sr. And while that makes them sisters by blood, the reality of their relationship has always been more complicated. For years, Samantha has been vocal in the media, openly criticizing Meghan's choices, public persona, and even her relationship with Prince Harry. Meghan, on the other hand, has maintained a more measured public demeanor, rarely responding directly to the attacks. But what appears as restraint to outsiders is often the product of careful navigation. Avoiding public confrontation while trying to protect her privacy and her family's fragile dignity. From the beginning, there were signs of tension. Childhood memories between Meghan and Samantha were never fully harmonious. Reports suggest a distant relationship during their formative years, punctuated by moments of brief closeness that ultimately faded under the weight of personal differences. While Meghan moved to California with her mother and pursued a career in acting, Samantha remained in the family's hometown, navigating her own personal and professional challenges. Their lives diverged significantly, but the public spotlight would eventually force their paths to intersect in ways neither could avoid. The first major public clash came years later, as Meghan's profile began to rise. Samantha seized opportunities to comment on Meghan's life in interviews, sometimes painting her sister in a harsh light. Headlines screamed about jealousy, resentment, and family betrayal. But while tabloids framed these stories as simple sibling rivalry, insiders insist the truth is far more nuanced. Samantha has long claimed that she simply wants recognition, fairness, and a voice in a family where Meghan's narrative dominates. Critics, however, suggest that her motives are more calculated. A bid for attention, influence, and perhaps even vindication. And the media has not helped matters. Every interview, every leaked email, every social media post has been dissected for signs of animosity. Analysts have highlighted patterns: Samantha's strategic timing of statements, her use of provocative language, and the careful framing of her grievances to maximize impact. To an outsider, it may look like chaos. But to those who know the family, these are long-standing battles played out on a global stage. Every statement carries consequences. Every revelation creates ripples that extend far beyond the immediate family. Yet despite the public sparring, there is evidence of real emotion underneath the conflict. Samantha has described moments of genuine concern for her sister, moments where she admits to wanting to protect Meghan from the pressures of fame and scrutiny. And Meghan, in turn, has often acknowledged her sister's perspective, even while keeping her distance. It's a complicated dance of loyalty, rivalry, and self-preservation, a dynamic that makes the latest revelation about medical records all the more shocking. For decades, the family has struggled with boundaries, trust, and communication, and Samantha's actions suggest that those struggles are far from over. At the same time, the Markle family is more than just Meghan and Samantha. Their father, Thomas Markle Sr., has been a polarizing figure, whose own actions and public statements have fueled media narratives and added layers of tension. His relationship with both daughters has been scrutinized, criticized, and speculated upon, with various accounts painting a picture of conflict, miscommunication, and fractured loyalty. Some insiders argue that the fractures in the family are rooted in deeper issues: financial disagreements, past grievances, and unresolved emotional wounds that have never been properly addressed. And yet, the public rarely sees this complexity. Instead, the story is distilled into sound bites: feuding Markle sisters, royal family scandal, Samantha attacks Meghan again. But behind the headlines lies a reality far more textured. The truth involves years of personal struggles, moments of genuine care, and an undercurrent of tension that has only grown with Meghan's ascent into royalty. To understand the impact of Samantha's leak, it's essential to grasp not just the events themselves, but the emotional landscape in which they occurred, a landscape shaped by family history, public scrutiny, and the high stakes of fame. One of the more fascinating aspects of this family dynamic is the contrast in public personas. Meghan is often portrayed as composed, diplomatic, and strategic in her public engagements. Samantha, by contrast, embraces a more confrontational approach, speaking candidly, and often abrasively about her sister. This dichotomy creates a narrative tension that the media thrives upon, but it also reflects genuine differences in personality, experience, and coping mechanisms. Meghan's restraint may be a protective shield, while Samantha's outspokenness may be a call for recognition and validation. Both approaches have consequences, and both shape how the public perceives the family drama. The impact of these differences becomes starkly clear when we examine the timeline of events leading up to Samantha's leak. Over the past decade, every major milestone in Meghan's life, from her acting career to her royal marriage, has been scrutinized by Samantha. Interviews, social media posts, and public statements have all contributed to a narrative in which Samantha positions herself as a foil, sometimes supportive, sometimes antagonistic. And while Meghan's supporters often dismiss these actions as mere attention-seeking, the strategic timing and emotional weight of Samantha's statements suggest a more deliberate approach, one designed to provoke, challenge, and, perhaps, unsettle her sister. But what makes this latest revelation particularly compelling is the sheer intimacy of the information involved. Medical records are deeply personal, far beyond the usual fodder for public commentary. To release such documents is to cross a boundary that most families would consider inviolable. It is one thing to argue over money, inheritance, or reputation. It is another entirely to expose the private details of someone's health, particularly when that exposure carries potential consequences for reputation, relationships, and personal well-being. The very act of leaking medical records transforms family conflict into a public spectacle of unprecedented intensity. And the timing could not be more explosive. Meghan's public profile has never been higher, and every detail about her life is already scrutinized with a magnifying glass. The release of these records, therefore, does not exist in isolation. It interacts with ongoing speculation, media narratives, and public curiosity, amplifying the impact exponentially. The result is a perfect storm in which personal grievance, public interest, and media sensationalism collide. A storm that threatens to redefine how the world perceives both Meghan and her family. The emotional consequences are equally significant. Trust has been eroded, relationships strained, and the sense of personal security undermined. For Meghan, the implications are profound. The knowledge that someone so close has made private details public can create lasting emotional scars. For Samantha, the act may provide a sense of vindication or control, but it also opens her up to criticism, legal scrutiny, and public backlash. And for observers, fans, media, and casual followers alike, the story raises difficult questions about privacy, family loyalty, and the ethics of revealing personal information. It is here, in the intersection of family dynamics and public scrutiny, that the real drama unfolds. Samantha's leak is not simply an isolated incident. It is a manifestation of long-standing tension, unmet expectations, and emotional complexity. Every word, every document, every revelation carries weight. And as the world reacts, with outrage, curiosity, or fascination, the Markle family must navigate consequences that are both immediate and enduring. So, as we transition from understanding the family divide into the specifics of the medical record leak, one question dominates the conversation. How far can family conflict go before it crosses into territory that is not only ethically questionable, but potentially life-altering? And what does Samantha's decision to leak private information say about the state of the relationship between these sisters? The answer, as we are about to see, is both shocking and deeply revealing. Because what started as a simmering tension between siblings has erupted into a public spectacle that no one anticipated. A spectacle in which private lives are exposed, reputations are challenged, and the very notion of trust is put to the test. And just when it seems we have reached the peak of the drama, the next revelation emerges, promising to upend everything we thought we knew about the Markles and the family divide that has defined them for decades. The divide between Samantha and Meghan is no longer just a family issue. It is a story with far-reaching implications, one that will shape public perception, media narratives, and personal lives for years to come. And as the first chapter closes, one question remains hanging in the air. Just how far will Samantha go? And how much more of Meghan's private life will be exposed in the fallout? Imagine discovering that someone you thought you could trust has shared your most intimate secrets with the world. Now imagine that this person is your own sister. For Meghan Markle, this nightmare moved from the hypothetical to reality in an instant. Samantha Markle, a woman who has always been in the periphery of Meghan's life, made a move that stunned both the media and the public. She leaked personal medical records. And while at first glance the leak may seem centered on Samantha herself, the implications ripple outward, touching Meghan's private life in ways that have left fans, insiders, and legal experts stunned. The leak was first reported in whispers, a rumor that seemed almost impossible. Who could actually have the audacity to release documents so private? The idea that family members would weaponize medical information feels unthinkable, yet here we are. Within hours, snippets of the information circulated online, sending social media into a frenzy. Headlines screamed about betrayal, scandal, and family feuds, while millions of viewers grappled with disbelief. The leak didn't just make news. It dominated it, capturing attention in ways that no ordinary story ever could. To understand why this is so shocking, it's crucial to grasp what these documents represent. Medical records are inherently private. They are legal documents meant to safeguard personal health information, shielded from public view for reasons that are both ethical and legal. They contain details about diagnoses, treatments, medications, and intimate health conditions. Information that most people would never dream of sharing publicly. For a public figure like Meghan Markle, whose life is already under constant scrutiny, the unauthorized exposure of such documents is not only a breach of privacy, but also an emotional violation. The leak raises immediate questions. Why did Samantha release these records, and what did she hope to accomplish? Was this an act of revenge, a bid for attention, or a statement of perceived justice? Analysts have pointed out that Samantha has a history of seeking media attention, often portraying herself as a misunderstood family member who merely wants recognition. Yet releasing medical records goes far beyond publicity stunts or interview comments. It is deliberate, calculated, and, most importantly, deeply personal. Some insiders suggest that Samantha's motives were multifaceted. On one hand, there may be long-standing resentment over the public narrative that casts Meghan as the favored child. On the other hand, there is the allure of media attention, of controlling the story rather than remaining on the sidelines. And perhaps most intriguingly, there could be a sense of moral justification in her mind, a belief that revealing this information exposes a truth that the public has a right to know. Whatever the motive, the consequences are undeniable. The leak has ignited a media firestorm that shows no signs of abating. What makes the situation even more volatile is the ambiguity surrounding the content of the records. While some reports indicate that the documents primarily concern Samantha herself, others hint at indirect references to Meghan's personal health. This ambiguity creates a perfect storm for speculation. Every new headline, every social media post, every comment from a so-called insider fuels the public's curiosity and feeds the narrative of scandal. It's a textbook example of a curiosity gap. People are desperate to know the truth, but the full picture remains tantalizingly out of reach. The leak also raises serious ethical and legal concerns. Family members are generally bound by an implicit trust, especially when it comes to medical information. Violating that trust can have profound consequences, both legally and emotionally. Privacy experts have weighed in, noting that the release of medical records without consent can constitute a breach of privacy laws in multiple jurisdictions. Legal scholars suggest that if any part of the leak pertained to Meghan's health, it could open the door to lawsuits, restraining orders, or other legal recourse. Yet despite these potential repercussions, Samantha pressed forward, suggesting a willingness to risk both legal consequences and public backlash to make her point. The timing of the leak also warrants attention. It came at a moment when Meghan's life was already under intense scrutiny. Her marriage to Prince Harry, her charitable work, and her public statements have all been examined, often with a magnifying glass that leaves no detail unmissed. By releasing private documents at this precise moment, Samantha ensured maximum visibility and maximum impact. The result is a perfect storm of scandal, intrigue, and emotional complexity. Public reaction has been immediate and intense. Social media platforms erupted with commentary, analysis, and, in many cases, outrage. Supporters of Meghan condemned the act as an unforgivable betrayal, while others argued that Samantha was simply exercising her right to speak publicly about her own experiences. The debate quickly spilled into mainstream media, with headlines framing the leak as everything from a family feud to a sensational exposé on royal life. What was most striking, however, was the emotional intensity. The story transcended mere gossip. It became a narrative about trust, betrayal, and the very nature of family loyalty. For Meghan, the impact of the leak is both personal and public. Beyond the obvious invasion of privacy, there is the emotional toll of knowing that someone so close would take such an action. Friends and advisors reportedly described her as shocked and hurt, struggling to process the scope of the disclosure. In a world where she is constantly in the spotlight, the ability to protect personal boundaries is already limited. Samantha's actions shattered what little control Meghan had over the narrative surrounding her private life, leaving her vulnerable not just to media scrutiny, but to public judgment on a level few could ever endure. But this is not just a story of conflict. It's also a story of curiosity, intrigue, and suspense. What exactly was revealed? How much of it relates to Samantha herself, and how much indirectly illuminates Meghan's life? The answers are elusive, creating a sense of anticipation that keeps the public glued to every development. Each day brings new leaks, new interpretations, and new commentary, all contributing to an ongoing narrative that feels part drama, part mystery, and part cautionary tale. And then there's the human element. At its core, this story is about the emotional consequences of family conflict. Trust, loyalty, and love are all put to the test when private information becomes public. For Samantha, the act of releasing these records may bring a sense of empowerment or vindication. For Meghan, it brings feelings of violation, anger, and heartbreak. And for everyone watching, it serves as a reminder of how fragile family bonds can be when subjected to the pressures of fame, public scrutiny, and personal grievances. Yet even as the immediate consequences unfold, there are longer-term implications to consider. The leak may influence public perception of both sisters for years to come. It may shape media narratives about Meghan's life, her relationships, and even her health. And it may redefine how the world understands the dynamics of the Markle family, a family whose private struggles have now become a global spectacle. As we examine the details, one thing becomes clear. This is a story that refuses to stay simple. Every document, every statement, every reaction adds layers of complexity. And while some may view Samantha's actions as merely another chapter in a family feud, the truth is far more intricate. The leak is a catalyst, setting off a chain reaction that touches not only the immediate family, but also public perception, legal considerations, and the broader conversation about privacy, trust, and morality. But perhaps the most compelling question of all is the one that remains unanswered. Why now? Why release these documents at this precise moment, when the consequences would be so profound? Was it a calculated move, designed to maximize impact? Or was it an impulsive act, driven by emotion and long-standing grievances? The answer remains uncertain, but the ramifications are crystal clear. Samantha Markle has irrevocably altered the landscape of this family's story, and the world is watching. As we move into the next chapter, we will begin to explore the fallout from this leak, the reactions it has provoked, and the ways in which it intersects with speculation about Meghan's fertility. The implications are vast, the drama is intense, and the stakes are higher than ever. And just when it seems the story could not become more complicated, a new twist emerges, one that promises to upend everything we thought we knew about the situation. Whispers have a way of growing into storms, especially when they involve someone as famous as Meghan Markle. For years, subtle rumors circulated in media circles, social platforms, and royal commentary forums about Meghan's ability to conceive. At first, they were almost imperceptible, brief mentions in gossip columns, insinuations in celebrity magazines, fleeting comments on talk shows. But like a slow-burning ember, these whispers gained traction over time, eventually growing into a conversation that captured the public imagination. And with Samantha Markle's recent leak of medical records, these whispers have now escalated into full-blown speculation, leaving the world asking one question that no one wants to answer directly. Could Meghan Markle have trouble conceiving? To understand how these rumors started, it's important to trace the timeline. Meghan and Prince Harry's marriage was always under an intense microscope. From the announcement of their engagement to the birth of their first child, the couple's personal life has been dissected, analyzed, and publicized at every step. The public, media, and even insiders have speculated about everything, from their private routines to Meghan's health. Early on, no concrete evidence supported fertility concerns, but persistent questions about timing, pregnancies, and public appearances began to stir speculation. Every delayed announcement, every social media silence, every subtle shift in Meghan's public schedule became fodder for debate. Of course, rumors are a tricky thing. They feed on assumptions, misinterpretations, and selective observations. Some early narratives suggested that Meghan might be delaying pregnancy for career reasons or personal choice, which is a narrative many would consider mundane, even reasonable. But the existence of Samantha's leak added a new layer, one that made the rumors feel far less speculative. When private family and medical information enters the public sphere, even tangentially, it transforms idle gossip into a story that feels tangible, consequential, and, for many, emotionally charged. Suddenly, these whispers are no longer just idle chatter. They are questions with real stakes. Interestingly, Meghan's fertility journey is often discussed in the same breath as her health, her stress levels, and her ability to navigate the intense pressures of royal life. Fertility, in this context, is not simply a private medical concern. It becomes a lens through which the public interprets Meghan's life, choices, and even her identity. For fans and critics alike, the speculation is intensely personal. Supporters feel empathy and concern, while detractors seize the opportunity to cast judgment or assign blame. It's a stark reminder of how fame transforms private matters into public theater. Adding fuel to the fire, insiders close to the palace and the Markle family have occasionally hinted at challenges without providing specifics. Some sources, speaking anonymously, suggested that Meghan may have faced difficulties conceiving naturally, though they stopped short of confirming anything. Others hinted that the couple was exploring various fertility options privately. These vague statements, combined with Samantha's recent leak, created a perfect storm for speculation, one in which the public is left piecing together fragments of information to form a narrative that may or may not reflect reality. It's worth pausing to consider the emotional impact of such speculation on Meghan herself. For most people, conversations about fertility are intensely private, often fraught with hope, fear, and vulnerability. For someone in Meghan's position, these personal concerns are amplified by relentless media scrutiny. Every news cycle, every social media post, every celebrity gossip segment has the potential to intensify the pressure, making it nearly impossible to navigate such matters with dignity or privacy. The stakes are not abstract. They are deeply personal, affecting not just Meghan but also her family, her marriage, and her mental health. This is where Samantha Markle's actions intersect in a particularly dramatic way. By releasing medical records, even if indirectly related to Meghan, she inadvertently or intentionally reignites these rumors in the public domain. The timing could not be more consequential. Where once these whispers were speculative, now they carry the weight of documentation, the appearance of insider knowledge, and the credibility that comes from proximity to the family. For Meghan, this development is not just invasive, it is potentially life-altering, forcing her to confront rumors that she may never have intended to address publicly. The public reaction has been intense. Social media feeds overflow with commentary, some expressing sympathy for Meghan, some speculating about her personal struggles, and others outright questioning her ability to start or expand her family. Every new article and online post contributes to the swirling storm, reinforcing narratives that may have little basis in verified facts. Yet in the court of public opinion, perception often matters as much as reality. The whispers have grown louder, and for Meghan, the echoes of speculation can feel relentless. And yet, amid the speculation, there are moments of contradiction and surprising facts. For instance, Meghan and Harry have always emphasized their commitment to family, publicly expressing joy and anticipation at the arrival of their first child. Interviews and statements from close friends suggest that they have actively engaged with medical professionals and support networks to plan for their future. This juxtaposition between private preparations and public speculation creates a tension that keeps the audience hooked. How can a couple appear so prepared, yet be the subject of widespread rumor? The contradiction itself fuels curiosity, prompting questions that remain unanswered. Another factor intensifying the speculation is the history of royal fertility rumors. Royal families have long been the subject of public scrutiny regarding heirs, pregnancies, and succession. From Princess Diana to Kate Middleton, the public has historically shown intense interest in the reproductive lives of royals, often blurring the lines between genuine concern and invasive obsession. Meghan, as a modern royal, finds herself navigating this historical context while also contending with the amplified pressures of social media and global news coverage. Every rumor, every whisper about fertility resonates not only with contemporary audiences but also with decades of royal precedent, adding weight and urgency to the speculation. Direct questions to the audience are inevitable. Could Meghan be facing challenges with conceiving? Is Samantha strategically using the leak to exacerbate these rumors? How much of the speculation is grounded in reality, and how much is a product of public imagination? These questions keep viewers engaged, ensuring that curiosity is continuously piqued. Every hint, every conflicting report, every insider comment acts as a magnet, drawing the audience deeper into the story. As the narrative unfolds, the tension rises further when considering the emotional stakes. Fertility is not merely a biological concern. It is entwined with identity, family expectations, and societal pressures. For Meghan, these stakes are magnified by the media's constant gaze and the public's insatiable curiosity. For Harry, the stakes involve supporting his wife while managing public perception, royal protocol, and familial expectations. And for Samantha, the stakes are about influence, attention, and the ability to shape a story that has captivated millions. Each party's motivations intersect in a drama that is as emotional as it is sensational. It's important to note that, amid all the speculation, no confirmed medical diagnosis has been made public regarding Meghan. Every report is filtered through sources, leaks, and interpretations, creating a cloud of uncertainty. This ambiguity is precisely what makes the story compelling. The audience is left to grapple with questions, contradictions, and potential revelations, all while watching the emotional fallout play out in real time. It is suspense at its most human, bridging curiosity with empathy, intrigue with concern. As Chapter 3 comes to a close, the stage is set for even more dramatic revelations. The whispers about Meghan's fertility, once subtle and background, are now front and center. Amplified by Samantha Markle's audacious actions and the public's unrelenting fascination. Every rumor, every insider claim, and every media headline builds toward a tension that seems impossible to resolve. And just when it feels like the story has reached its peak, another twist is waiting. A revelation that promises to upend assumptions and push the narrative into uncharted territory. When Samantha Markle's medical record leak hit the public sphere, the reaction was instantaneous, relentless, and explosive. Social media platforms, which often serve as the modern-day court of public opinion, erupted with thousands of posts, comments, and debates within hours. Twitter hashtags trended worldwide. Instagram threads overflowed with memes, theories, and screenshots of the alleged documents. Even Facebook, usually slower to react, became a hub of outrage, curiosity, and heated discussion. The public's response was a fascinating mixture of shock, empathy, judgment, and fascination. A perfect storm of emotional intensity that demonstrated just how deeply this story resonated. From the start, the reaction was polarized. On one side were Meghan's supporters, who expressed outrage over the violation of privacy. Tweets flooded in calling Samantha's actions unforgivable, a betrayal of family trust, and an invasion of human dignity. People empathized with Meghan, imagining the psychological toll of having private matters exposed to millions. Some even called for legal action, arguing that releasing medical information without consent was not just unethical, but potentially illegal. The general sentiment in this camp was one of shock and indignation, a collective gasp at the audacity of exposing such intimate details. On the other side were skeptics and critics, many of whom seized the moment to cast judgment on Meghan. Headlines and social media posts questioned her lifestyle, her decisions, and, in some cases, her family planning. The leak, they argued, might reveal truths that the public had long suspected but had never had access to. Comments such as, "If this is true, maybe people finally see the real Meghan," or "Secrets don't stay hidden forever," flooded forums and comment sections. In this group, Samantha's actions were framed as a form of transparency, albeit one that came at a morally and emotionally complicated cost. And then there was the middle ground, the curious, the observers who were neither outraged nor critical but utterly fascinated. These people dissected every snippet of information, debated the potential implications, and speculated endlessly about what might be revealed next. They watched the drama unfold with the intensity of a serialized television show, unable to look away even as they acknowledged the human cost of the revelations. For them, the story was not just about scandal. It was about human psychology, family dynamics, and the fascinating interplay of fame, privacy, and public scrutiny. The intensity of the public reaction was amplified by social media influencers and content creators who quickly latched onto the story. YouTube channels produced reaction videos, TikTok creators created short-form summaries and analyses, and Instagram personalities offered commentary loops that repeated, reshared, and amplified key details. Each new upload, video, or post contributed to a self-reinforcing cycle. The more attention the story received, the more people discussed it, which in turn made it impossible for anyone remotely interested in royal affairs to ignore. Even mainstream media outlets could not resist. Newspapers and online publications around the world dedicated front-page coverage, headlines, and special features to dissecting the leak. Analysts appeared on news panels to speculate about motives, consequences, and legal ramifications. Television programs hosted discussions about the ethics of releasing medical information, weighing privacy against public curiosity. The coverage was global, reaching audiences in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and beyond. This omnipresent attention elevated what might have been a private family dispute into a public spectacle with worldwide resonance. But it wasn't just the quantity of reaction that was striking, it was the emotional intensity. Tweets expressed disbelief, rage, concern, and empathy, often all within the same thread. People debated not only the ethics of Samantha's leak, but also the implications for Meghan's emotional well-being, her marriage, and her public image. The story tapped into universal themes: trust, betrayal, privacy, family conflict, and the complex dynamics of sibling relationships. That emotional resonance helped the story spread far beyond the usual royal watchers, reaching a diverse audience eager to engage in conversation and form opinions. The public's reaction also highlighted the tension between empathy and curiosity. Many people expressed genuine concern for Meghan's emotional health, understanding the vulnerability involved in having private medical information disclosed. At the same time, a parallel current of fascination emerged, with people scrutinizing every detail, speculating about fertility issues, and attempting to read hidden meanings from Samantha's statements and leaked documents. The balance between caring and consuming drama created an atmosphere of intense engagement, keeping viewers hooked on every new development. Interestingly, the reactions were not confined to adults or traditional audiences. Young adults and even teens engaged heavily with the story, discussing it in memes, social media comment sections, and private chat groups. They were drawn by the drama, the family conflict, and the voyeuristic thrill of seeing private lives play out in public. Some approached the story as a morality tale, debating whether Samantha's actions were justified, while others treated it as entertainment, dissecting every twist as if it were a plot in a popular Netflix drama. The global dimension of the public reaction also cannot be overstated. While Meghan and Samantha are American by birth, Meghan's status as a member of the British royal family added layers of fascination and scrutiny in the UK, Europe, and the Commonwealth. British tabloids covered the story with their characteristic blend of sensationalism and detail, dissecting every phrase and motive. In the United States, the media focused more on family dynamics and celebrity culture, analyzing personal history, past statements, and potential psychological motivations. The result was a worldwide narrative that transcended borders, resonating with audiences across cultures and continents. And yet, even amid the outrage, fascination, and commentary, contradictions emerged that only deepened the public's curiosity. Some social media users questioned the authenticity of the leaked documents, suggesting they might be altered, incomplete, or misleading. Others pointed out inconsistencies in Samantha's past statements, wondering whether her motivations were entirely self-serving. These contradictions created tension, keeping people engaged as they tried to separate fact from speculation. Every new claim added complexity, forcing audiences to constantly reassess their understanding of the unfolding story. Direct questions to the audience multiplied as the discussion intensified. Could anyone truly trust a family member with personal information? How much is too much when it comes to publicizing private matters? Is Samantha acting out of malice, a desire for attention, or some twisted sense of justice? And what does this mean for Meghan, for her marriage, and for the family as a whole? These questions are deliberately provocative, designed to pull the audience deeper into the narrative and keep them invested in every twist and turn. The public reaction also prompted discussions about broader societal issues, the ethics of sharing private information, the pressures faced by public figures, and the role of social media in amplifying conflict. Psychologists and social commentators weighed in, highlighting the emotional toll such public exposure can take and the complexities of navigating fame, family, and personal boundaries simultaneously. Every layer added depth to the narrative, ensuring that the story was not just about scandal, but about human behavior, morality, and emotional resilience. As the chapter unfolds, one thing becomes clear. The public's reaction is not a fleeting wave of interest. It is a sustained, multi-layered engagement, fueled by curiosity, empathy, judgment, and the timeless fascination with family conflict. Every new detail, every media update, every social media post reinforces the intensity of the story, ensuring that it continues to dominate public attention. And within this swirl of opinion and commentary lies an unspoken tension. A recognition that the leak has changed the story permanently, and that the consequences will be felt not just by Meghan and Samantha, but by everyone watching the saga unfold. And just when it seems the public has processed every angle, another layer emerges. Legal experts, commentators, and insiders begin to question the motives behind the leak, suggesting that the story may be far more strategic and far more consequential than anyone initially realized. Every reaction, every response, every analysis becomes a puzzle piece, forming a picture that is still incomplete, still unfolding, and still deeply compelling. As Chapter 4 draws to a close, it becomes evident that the story is no longer just about family tension or leaked documents. It is about the power of public perception, the fragility of reputation, and the intricate dance between private lives and global audiences. And just when the audience thinks they understand the narrative, the next chapter promises to introduce a new layer of insight, expert opinions, insider perspectives, and shocking revelations that will challenge assumptions and push the story into even more dramatic territory. As the public digested Samantha Markle's shocking leak and wrestled with speculation about Meghan's fertility, experts from multiple fields began weighing in. From medical professionals to psychologists, legal analysts to media commentators, each perspective added layers to the story, offering insights that were simultaneously illuminating and provocative. Suddenly, what started as a family feud had evolved into a multifaceted drama touching on health, ethics, media, and psychology. The opinions of experts gave the narrative legitimacy, but also intensified the curiosity gap. What had really happened, and what would the fallout be? Medical experts were among the first to respond. Fertility specialists emphasized how sensitive and complex reproductive health truly is, cautioning against drawing conclusions from incomplete information. Fertility is not a black and white issue, explained Dr. Helena Forsyth, a renowned reproductive endocrinologist. Many factors, age, health history, stress, and even environment, can influence outcomes. Rumors or leaked documents can easily be misinterpreted. Yet, despite these cautions, the public was fixated on every fragment of information, trying to read between the lines of Samantha's leak for indications of Meghan's personal medical history. Some doctors noted that leaked medical documents, even if pertaining to Samantha herself, could inadvertently raise questions about her sister. Experts stressed the ethical implications. Medical information is confidential. When someone outside the individual releases it, it creates not only a legal risk, but also a psychological burden for all parties involved, Dr. Forsyth continued. This comment highlighted a critical point. Samantha's actions were not only a breach of her own privacy, but they potentially affected Meghan as well, making the situation far more serious than it might appear at first glance. Psychologists also weighed in, offering insight into the emotional dynamics at play. Dr. Martin Ellison, a family therapist specializing in high-profile disputes, suggested that sibling conflicts of this nature are rarely just about money, attention, or reputation. There is often a deeper, unresolved emotional history. In families where one member is in the spotlight, feelings of jealousy, neglect, or inadequacy can manifest in very public ways. Leaks like these are often a culmination of long-standing resentment. His words helped contextualize Samantha's actions, framing them not as random acts of malice, but as potentially rooted in decades of complex emotions. Legal experts contributed another layer of complexity, exploring the ramifications of releasing private medical information. Under U.S. privacy law, medical records are protected by HIPAA and other statutes, though enforcement can be complicated when the individuals involved are not patients themselves. Legal analyst Laura Chambers explained, if Samantha released her own documents, she may be within her rights. But if any content indirectly implicates Meghan or includes her health information, there could be serious legal consequences, including lawsuits for invasion of privacy. This analysis introduced a suspenseful element. The story was no longer just about family drama, but about potential legal battles that could have long-lasting consequences. Media ethics scholars also weighed in, exploring the role of journalists, commentators, and social media users in amplifying the leak. Dr. Rachel Morgan, a professor of media studies, noted, "This story illustrates how the boundary between private and public life is increasingly blurred. When documents are leaked and everyone wants a piece of the narrative, it creates an ethical dilemma. How do we report responsibly without causing harm?" Her observations underscored the challenge the media faced, covering a story that is inherently sensational without becoming complicit in the invasion of privacy. Even financial analysts chimed in, highlighting the potential ripple effects of the controversy on public perception and personal ventures. Samantha has historically sought opportunities for publicity, and analysts speculated that the leak could strategically increase her visibility, intentionally or unintentionally. Meanwhile, any negative perception of Meghan could influence her engagements, charitable work, and public brand. Every expert opinion added weight to the story, making it clear that the leak was far more than a personal dispute. It was a narrative with multidimensional impact. The combination of medical, psychological, legal, and media perspectives created a complex, layered picture. Experts confirmed what many suspected intuitively. This was not just a story about leaked documents or family tension. It was a study in human behavior, ethics, and the pressures of fame. The insights helped the public interpret events with nuance, but also introduced new questions. How much of Samantha's motivation was emotional, and how much strategic? Were there legal avenues Meghan could pursue, and what would the public reaction be if she did? Could this family feud ever truly be reconciled after such an invasive act? One particularly compelling aspect that experts highlighted was the interplay between public scrutiny and personal well-being. Dr. Ellison pointed out that Meghan is navigating an unprecedented situation. The combination of global fame, family betrayal, and medical speculation creates an extraordinary level of psychological pressure. Imagine dealing with rumors about your fertility while your every move is televised, analyzed, and critiqued, he said. It's not just stressful. It can have real psychological consequences, including anxiety, depression, and emotional exhaustion. These insights helped viewers understand the human cost behind the headlines, moving the story beyond tabloid sensationalism into a realm of empathy and reflection. Legal experts, meanwhile, speculated about potential strategies Meghan might employ in response to the leak. Some suggested she could pursue a civil suit for invasion of privacy or seek injunctions to prevent further dissemination of the documents. Others argued that the public nature of the leak, amplified by media coverage and social platforms, could complicate legal recourse. Every possible scenario added suspense, leaving the audience wondering, what will Meghan do next, and how will Samantha respond? Medical experts also emphasized a subtle but important point. The psychological impact of fertility speculation can affect actual outcomes. Stress, anxiety, and public scrutiny can influence reproductive health, Dr. Forsyth explained. When someone's private life is exposed and their personal choices become a matter of public debate, it creates an additional layer of complexity that is difficult to navigate emotionally and physically. This observation added a tragic dimension. The very act of leaking the documents might exacerbate the challenges the public is now speculating about. Media analysts examined the public's consumption of the story, noting that sensationalism often drives engagement more than facts. We are witnessing a classic case of narrative amplification, Dr. Morgan explained. Every media outlet, every influencer, every social media thread builds upon the previous one, creating a feedback loop that magnifies curiosity and emotional intensity. The audience becomes both a participant and a witness, blurring the line between observer and actor. These insights highlighted the extraordinary power of social perception in shaping the story, making it clear that the saga was no longer just about Meghan and Samantha. It had become a global phenomenon shaped by public engagement itself. One of the most fascinating takeaways from expert commentary is the convergence of different fields. Medicine, psychology, law, media, and even public relations all intersect in this single story. Each perspective provides a partial understanding, but only by combining them can the audience begin to grasp the full implications. Experts cautioned against oversimplification, stressing that while speculation may be tempting, the reality is far more nuanced and emotionally charged. As Chapter 5 closes, the story has expanded beyond personal conflict into a multi-layered drama that involves ethical, emotional, and legal dimensions. The experts' insights illuminate motivations, consequences, and potential outcomes, but they also deepen the suspense. With so many moving parts, it is impossible to predict what will happen next. Every revelation, every reaction, every decision carries the potential to escalate the drama further. The moment Samantha Markle's leak became public, the reaction from the media and royal circles was swift, calculated, and, in some ways, revealing. Suddenly, what had seemed like a personal family matter was no longer confined to private discourse. It had become a story that demanded global attention. Media outlets scrambled to cover the developments, while the royal family, known for its carefully curated public image, faced the challenge of responding to a situation that had erupted into public consciousness with unprecedented intensity. For the media, the story was irresistible. Headlines screamed of betrayal, scandal, and shocking revelations. Television programs ran special segments analyzing every angle, from the content of the leaked documents to speculation about Meghan's fertility. Newspapers, tabloids, and online platforms competed to break new updates, often prioritizing speed over verification. Social media amplified every report, generating a feedback loop that intensified public scrutiny. Every expert opinion, celebrity commentary, and insider source became fodder for further discussion, keeping the story in perpetual motion. What made the media response so dramatic was not just the content of the leak, but the timing and context. Meghan and Harry's lives are already under global scrutiny, and Samantha's actions inserted a volatile element into an already high-stakes narrative. For media outlets, the challenge was twofold: reporting on a sensational story that was guaranteed to draw attention, while navigating the ethical and legal complexities of discussing private medical information. The result was coverage that was as sensational as it was conflicted, with some outlets emphasizing scandal and others attempting a more measured analysis of privacy, ethics, and family dynamics. In the UK, the royal press approached the story with a mixture of caution and intensity. Analysts noted that the palace rarely comments on personal family disputes, especially when legal or ethical issues are involved. Historically, the royal family has maintained a policy of silence in matters of private life, intervening publicly only when reputations, legal matters, or the monarchy's public image are at stake. However, the intensity of Samantha's leak, combined with public speculation about Meghan's fertility, forced unprecedented attention and commentary from royal correspondents. Newspapers debated not just the immediate implications but the long-term effects on the monarchy, the couple's public perception, and the public's trust in the royal institution. Palace insiders reportedly viewed the leak with concern. Confidential statements suggested that there was anxiety about potential legal ramifications, as well as the broader public perception of Meghan and Harry. The palace historically prioritizes protecting its members' privacy, and a breach of this magnitude, albeit indirect, coming from Meghan's half-sister, posed a serious challenge. The insiders' accounts emphasized the delicate balance the palace must strike, acknowledging the controversy without exacerbating it, and protecting Meghan's interests without drawing further attention to private details. Across the Atlantic, American media responded with an intensity that mirrored the country's fascination with celebrity and family drama. Cable news networks devoted segments to analyzing Samantha's motivations, Meghan's possible responses, and the public fallout. Talk shows debated the ethics of the leak, while lifestyle magazines dissected the implications for Meghan's personal life. Social media influencers and YouTube commentators further amplified the story, generating millions of views and creating a parallel universe of opinion, speculation, and analysis. Every viral post, meme, and video created additional pressure for the palace and Meghan to navigate the situation carefully. One particularly striking aspect of the media response was the emphasis on narrative framing. Outlets consciously shaped